Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. It's feeling sweet once again in West Lafayette as Purdue heads to the Sweet 16 for the third straight year. Today, I'll preview Purdue's matchup with Texas on Thursday night, look at the other game in the West Regional and what could await Purdue in the Elite Eight should it advance past the Longhorns. Plus, it's been a great tournament for the Big Ten thus far. Is the NCAA Tournament forever changed because of the supposed death of the Cinderella? Your questions, some final thoughts on Purdue heading into this. A jam-packed episode here today. If you don't already, come follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. Join the conversation. You can always send the show questions on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond, or email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure that you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. We are coming to you all year long talking Purdue sports. Come make sure you don't miss an episode and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. At 7:10 Eastern on Thursday, Purdue will take on Texas in the Sweet 16 on CBS. It is Purdue's 7th Sweet 16 appearance in the last 9 years. This is tied for the most Sweet 16s in that time frame. 3 in a row for Purdue, 4 in the last 5 seasons. It gets the only double-digit seed remaining in the field in the Texas Longhorns, and that is this year's Cinderella, I guess, if you want to call it that. Purdue gets the plucky underdog, the double-digit seed that is the University of Texas at Austin. Not quite your classic Cinderella story, but Texas was a last 4-in team to the NCAA tournament. I think they were number 2 on that list of the last 4-in, but they won 3 games in 5 days to reach this point. Texas got a late field goal to beat NC State in the first 4, and then handled BYU with some relative ease. AJ DeBansa still had a big day in that, but it wasn't enough for BYU, who really hadn't been playing well since Richie Saunders got hurt. Texas won that game, and then Camden Heide, Purdue's old friend, knocked down a corner 3 to push the lead to 4, sealed the deal in a win over Gonzaga. Of course, that Camden Heide storyline is the first thing that jumps off the page here. It's the easy storyline. It's the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. Heide transferred to Texas after last season. He's started 28 games this season, 5.9 points, 2.6 rebounds, having a really good year from 3, shooting 46% from back there. Almost all of his field goals, 104 of his 142 attempts have come from behind the arc, so not a whole lot has changed there. He's a very, very similar player to what he was at Purdue last season. From an analytical standpoint, Texas is the lowest rated team remaining in the field over at KenPom, and really any analytics site that you find will have Texas as the lowest remaining team. KenPom gives Purdue an 8-point Purdue victory, a 75% win expectancy. Bart Torvik had Purdue by 9.5, gave Purdue a little bit over an 80% win expectancy. Vegas has this thing at 7.5 right now, so kind of in line with what you're seeing there. This is another solid offensive team that Purdue is going to face, and it follows a little bit of the Miami blueprint. It follows a little bit of what Purdue saw there. The 2-point and 3-point profiles are very similar. Neither team shoots a ton of threes. Pretty balanced there. Texas does a pretty good job on offense. It's a solid group. It doesn't shoot a ton of threes. It's an okay 3-point shooting team. It's pretty good from 2-point range. It's able to get to the basket fairly well. It's a solid team there on offense. The difference between Texas and Miami, though, is that Texas is really good at getting to the free throw line. And if you ask me, that is the matchup of this game. is Texas trying to get to the free throw line against a Purdue team that doesn't allow opponents to get to the free throw line a lot. That is a massive deal here because a lot of Texas's offense this year comes from the free throw line, and Purdue builds its entire defense, its entire defensive philosophy is centered around not letting opponents get to the free throw line, about not fouling, keeping opponents away from the rim, out of the lane, not fouling, and making them earn it through jump shooting. You saw it in that first 4 game against NC State. Texas shoots 29 free throws. It got to the line 18 times against BYU. It really didn't, only 9 times against Gonzaga. It's not shot well from 3 in the NCAA tournament, but it has been above 50% from 2-point range in both of the games in the bracket so far, the BYU and the Gonzaga games. Foul trouble is the biggest peril that this Purdue team can face. What Purdue has been getting from Trey Kaufman-Renn and Oscar Clough has just been fabulous. Those two are playing at a really high level right now, and they are, I don't want to say single-handedly, but that is the biggest thing that Purdue is getting right now over the past couple of weeks that has elevated it from what it was down the stretch of the regular season when Purdue wasn't playing all that well, when Purdue wasn't winning at the level that most folks expected. These two guys have been awesome, and Purdue cannot afford for them to be in foul trouble or to be dealing with complicated situations because of foul trouble. Purdue needs them both on the floor, battling on the boards, scoring around the basket, running stuff out of the pick and roll, out of the short post with Trey Kaufman-Renn. It's been great. It's been great what Purdue's been getting on offense lately, and so much of that comes from having those two on the floor, from having Trey Kaufman-Renn as a scorer and a decision maker with the basketball, and having Oscar Clough doing the little things, finding cheap baskets around the goal. I'm really curious to see how Purdue looks to match up against Texas, because what jumps off the page right away is Dalen Swain. 6'8" forward, can really handle the ball, attack off the bounce. I'm curious to see how Purdue looks to line up there, because that is a player who can generate fouls, who can get you in foul trouble. He gets to the line a lot. 193 times this season, and he shoots 82% there. That's pretty significant. I wonder what Purdue does there. Assuming CJ Cox is healthy and able to play, I'm recording this here on Tuesday night just before 9 o'clock. I have not seen any sort of an update on CJ Cox. He said he was okay after the game. Of course, everyone who's played sports is going to say they're okay. What is the reality there? But if he's good to go, does Purdue put CJ Cox on him and maybe put Trey Kaufman-Renn on Camden Heide, who is not going to beat you off the bounce, who is going to stand around the three-point line, attack the glass a little bit, but isn't really a threat to go penetrate and get to the basket or create off the dribble? I don't know. Or does Purdue look to just wall up and put Trey Kaufman-Renn on Dalen Swain and use that size to Purdue's advantage? I don't know. Swain can facilitate. He has 6 assists in each of the last 2 games. This isn't a particularly deep Texas team, and that's where I get into the foul trouble conversation again, because Texas does foul a lot. Opponents get to the free throw line quite a bit on Texas. 299th nationally in free throw rate allowed. That is not good at all. For Purdue, how does that battle go? Because Texas wants to get to the line. It gives up a lot of free throws. Purdue shot excellent at the free throw line against Miami, but it's not like Trey Kaufman-Renn and Oscar Clough are automatic at the free throw line. They've both been all right this year. They're big guys, and big guys aren't always great free throw shooters, but Kaufman-Renn at 63%, Oscar Clough at 69%. This is a big deal. Foul trouble could go a long way in deciding this matchup. Texas only plays 8 dudes. What you see is what you get. There are some guards in the backcourt that are going to put up a lot of shots. There is a big dude, the Lithuanian guy, Vokataitis, I think it is. He's playing really well lately. He rebounds well. He gets to the free throw line a lot. He's not a step out and shoot guy. He hasn't taken a three-pointer all season, but he can do some really good stuff that makes you worried. Shoots 61% from the field. That's rock solid. It's a good group of athletes. It kind of follows the SEC model. That's something that Purdue's had success against. For all the talk about what athleticism does to Purdue, and you saw it a little bit against Miami. Miami out-rebounded Purdue. Miami was able to throw some stuff defensively at Purdue that forced turnovers. But ultimately, Purdue won the game. For all the talk about Purdue not being athletic and Purdue not handling athleticism, it's been just fine there recently. It really has been. Are there instances where it's given Purdue some trouble? Sure, but anything can give you trouble, right? It just is. It's basketball. I don't expect this to come easily for Purdue. I really don't. Nothing ever does in this event. Even when you're a seed like Purdue, a 2 seed, yeah, Purdue got an easy one against Queens, right? Purdue played really well and it won the game by 30. But it had a battle against Miami. That thing was in doubt until the final minute. Where is Texas? That's another big question here, because adrenaline is real. Momentum is very real in sports. Texas won 3 games in 5 days. Texas won on Tuesday night in Dayton, immediately flew out to Portland, Oregon, where it didn't arrive until the wee hours of Wednesday morning, plays the early afternoon game against BYU, turns around, plays a game against Gonzaga, flies from Portland back to Austin, now back to San Jose. It's had 4 days to kind of catch its breath, to compose itself. But does the momentum wear off at that point? Does the adrenaline wear off a little bit and water start to find its level a little bit? Or does Texas just stay hot? Is this Texas finding itself at the right time of the year with a roster that has talent, that has ability? This isn't a bad Texas team. You look at what Texas has accomplished this year, there are some nice wins. There are some nice wins on that resume. It beat Alabama. It beat Vanderbilt. It beat Texas A&M, who was a tournament team. There are some solid performances here. Georgia was a tournament team that Texas beat by 20. Some good stuff. Texas is in the Sweet 16. It's not a mistake. But it's also a team that went into Selection Sunday with an 18-14 record, losers of 3 straight games, in 5 of its last 6. So what is that reality? What is the Texas team that Purdue gets? Of course, you always anticipate on getting your opponent's best shot. It's fair to point out that, look, Texas beat an NC State team that was really struggling down the stretch. And I've never been around Will Wade, but I can't see Will Wade teams doing really well in the heat of adversity when you've really been struggling. I don't think that's the most rock solid foundation necessarily, especially in year one with a cobbled together roster of transfers. BYU was not the same after Richie Saunders got hurt. It just wasn't. AJ DeBanso was spectacular, an awesome, awesome player. Probably going to go number 1 in the draft. And then Gonzaga didn't have Braden Huff. And that was a different Gonzaga team without Braden Huff. Mark Few kind of played the question mark game as to whether he'd be available or not. He wasn't. He probably never was going to be able to be. Maybe Gonzaga was a little bit overseeded as a 3 because Gonzaga didn't look good against Kennesaw State, and then it lost to Texas. Meanwhile, everything you could have wanted from Purdue over the last 6 games you've gotten. The average margin of victories over 14 points. Queens helps inflate that a little bit, but Purdue has played well. Purdue has been handling teams, I don't want to say with ease, but this is the Purdue you expected to get at the start of the season. This is the Purdue you thought you were getting. And this is the Purdue that you've seen at times, that went to Alabama and won, that dominated JT Toppin and Texas Tech when he was still in the lineup in the Bahamas. Purdue dominated that game. You've seen the flashes, but over the last 2 weeks, Purdue has really put it together. Is this something Purdue can sustain? Because if so, Purdue's going to be just fine here. I said it about Miami. I'll say it again here about Texas, that if Purdue is able to play well, and in this case, if Purdue is able to limit turnovers better than it did against Miami, if Purdue is able to rebound better than it did against Miami, stay out of foul trouble, and continue producing on offense, Purdue's going to be all right. Now, again, turnovers are the great equalizer in all of this. It's why Purdue trailed going into the half against Miami. It's why that game stayed interesting, because Purdue turned the ball over, I believe, 12 times. Miami out-rebounded Purdue. You can't really have that. That's not a formula sustainable for winning, but if Purdue turns in a good performance, then Purdue's going to be marching on to the Elite Eight, where the winner of Purdue-Texas is going to get Arizona-Arkansas. It should be an incredible matchup. Arizona's really, really good. There is no other way to discuss it. The size is really impressive. What it does on the defensive end is as good as anyone in the country. You have 2 elite freshmen, could be lottery picks, in Koa Pete and Braden Burries. Jaden Bradley won Big 12 Player of the Year at point guard. It's top 4 inside Ken Palm's offensive and defensive efficiency numbers. It's 34-2 for a reason. The fascinating thing about it, too, is that Arizona doesn't shoot three-pointers. Only 2 teams in Division I shoot fewer threes than Arizona does. Now, they're good at it when they do. They shoot 36% from deep. That's a solid number. But Arizona really doesn't want to shoot the 3-ball. They get it done from 2-point range. They abuse the offensive glass. That game's going to be at a frantic tempo. Arkansas is really good. It can fly. Darius Acuff is a lottery pick. He's probably the most exciting player left in the big dance, just from a scoring perspective, what he can do. It's a really high-tempo offense that doesn't turn the ball over. Lowest turnover rate in the country belongs to Arkansas. It shoots well from 3. It attacks the basket well. Ken Palm has Arizona winning that game by 8. If you ask me, it's hard to envision Arizona losing, especially out in San Jose, where you would think Arizona has a really nice crowd advantage. I'm not all that familiar with the Arizona fan base, but I would think it travels fairly well. Arkansas is going to have a shot, though. If Arkansas gets the best from Darius Acuff, if it can do enough on the glass, it's going to have a chance. And Arizona struggled a little bit with a pesky Utah State team. We'll see. We'll see. If Purdue can get by Texas, it's going to have a tough game either way. Anything is on the table, though. Arizona is an excellent team. It is quite possibly the most imposing team in America, alongside Michigan. A lot of similarities there in terms of the size, in terms of the length. Again, as I said on Selection Sunday, though, this is a one-game deal. Purdue is playing as well as anyone in the country since the start of the Big Ten tournament. It's been shooting really well from outside. And if you shoot well from outside and you take care of the basketball against Arizona and you don't let Arizona get those transition baskets that it craves, you're going to give yourself a chance, because Arizona is not likely to really get rolling from 3-point range. You're going to have a chance. And if Purdue wins, we'll do a little quick podcast first thing Friday morning, but Purdue's going to have a chance. It won't be favored against Arizona, but it won't be some gigantic underdog. And then if it's Arkansas, you're going up against probably the scariest player left in the field in Darius Acuff Jr. He's awesome. He's going to be a lottery pick. He's a freshman. But again, Purdue's playing really well. I mean, if you can limit what he can do, easier said than done, then you give yourself a chance, right? It's a game that Purdue would have a decent shot at getting to the Final Four with. And right now, when you just look at what's ahead of you on Thursday and what's ahead of you in a possible Elite Eight game, I don't know that there's any team in the country that you would rather trade places with than being Purdue right now. It's a pretty solid place to be, and it's a pretty solid place to be in the Big Ten right now. 6 Big Ten teams in the Sweet 16, Michigan, Purdue, Illinois, Michigan State, Nebraska, and Iowa. Now, to be totally fair here, Iowa is the only team that's not a top 4 seed. So, in theory, the other 5 were all expected to get there. I think Vanderbilt was a favorite over Nebraska in that game, so not really. But the rest of them all were expected to be at this point. Iowa, of course, with the upset of the year in my eyes. High Point over Wisconsin was not as big of an upset to me as Iowa over Florida was. The Big Ten hasn't won a national title since 2000, and it's done it's had some really good teams in there. It's not totally fair, if you ask me, to just throw all of that at the Big Ten. I want to say the Big Ten has lost, 8 national title games in that time frame. You had some teams that were right there. You had a few get blown out, but I don't know that it's super fair to just blast the Big Ten. But this is a conference that's really proud, that really hasn't had the NCAA tournament success that it wants to. I think when you look at the league right now, the coaching is really, really solid. Just look at what Ben McCollum has done in 1 year at Iowa, where the only guy you really knew coming into the season was Bennett Sturtz. And even as I sit here now and try to talk about Iowa, Tavion Banks is good. Cooper Koch is really good, a good three-point shooter. But it's not like that's some star-studded roster. That guy's won everywhere he's been. He can really coach. Michigan got a massive upgrade in Dusty May from Juwan Howard. I know Dusty May rubs a lot of folks the wrong way. It doesn't take much scrolling through Twitter to see that, but he can really coach, and that's a really good team. Fred Hoiberg has done a great job at a place that has literally never won. Tom Izzo and Matt Painter, 2 of the best in the country, have been just consistent models of success over a really long period of time. Kind of like Dusty May, Brad Underwood can be a little prickly, but he's done great at Illinois. He's done really, really well there. They've been consistent as can be for the last 5-6 years now. It's not insignificant that this conference cares a lot about basketball, as you're in the era of athlete compensation, the transfer portal. Big Ten has led the country in attendance for 50 years straight. Matt Painter references that stat a lot. It's a conference that cares a lot. I think that helps. There's no real reason to sit here and think that the Big Ten will continue its drought. There are too many good programs, too many good coaches in the league. It's a really big moment for the Big Ten here. And as you look at it, it's got a real shot to have a strong presence in the Final Four in Indianapolis, right in the heart of Big Ten country. This episode is brought to you by me. Yes, me. When I'm not watching sports, or more accurately, talking about them, I'm talking insurance with the people of Indiana. As an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, I want to help you protect what you've worked hard to achieve. From home and auto to life and business insurance, I'm here to help you. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me at jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com, and let's protect you from life's everyday risks. I'm going to go a little Q&A here in the middle. Over under 3.5 Big Ten teams in the Elite Eight. Guaranteed 1 with Iowa versus Nebraska. Michigan and Purdue are solid favorites. Michigan State and Illinois are more toss-ups. I'll go with the over. Obviously, yes, Iowa, Nebraska, winner moves on. I think Michigan and Purdue hold serve. I think both of those teams get a win. Although, again, Alabama is always the team that scares me just because of how many threes they shoot. I don't expect Michigan to lose that game. I think Michigan's the much better team, especially without Aiden Holloway for Alabama. At least I assume he's not going to play. But they shoot so many threes that it's incredibly volatile. But I think Michigan and Purdue hold serve. And then you have 2 toss-ups with Michigan State against UConn, Illinois against Houston. I'll say the Big Ten gets one of those, although I really don't know which. I don't have a great feel for either of those games. But I'll say over, and the Big Ten has 4 teams in the Elite Eight. Question, the Big Ten should get a solid payday with 6 teams in the Sweet 16. How much is the payout? How is it split? Is it still evenly among all conference teams? Yeah, it still is. Even among all conference teams. We'll see how long that lasts. I've kind of always wondered at what point that goes out the window, especially with the college football playoff getting bigger and bigger. But for now, yeah. Each unit is roughly $2 million paid over 6 years, according to Forbes. This is something I did some real crash course research on. So every win the Big Ten gets is about $300,000 to the Big Ten for next year. Every dollar counts. This is the revenue sharing era. Every dollar counts, man. You can't maximize revenue enough. So, yeah, you'll take it. You'll take it. Do you think Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, or Trey Kaufman-Renn will go to the pros next year? I mean, in terms of the NBA, we'll see. Each player has a limitation that's going to get extremely lasered in on when it comes to combine testing and all of that. And you have to keep in mind that, again, I'm not an NBA guy. I'm just going off what I know about the NBA here. I don't watch it at all, but these guys are all old, right? Trey Kaufman-Renn's been in college for 5 years. The other 2 have been in college for 4. When you're an NBA team, these guys are a lot more maxed out physically, a lot older on the front end of those contracts, a lot older on the back end of those contracts. And, of course, Braden Smith is small. I don't know what he's going to measure in at, but I'd be surprised if it was taller than 5'10". Fletcher Loyer is not exactly the most athletic player out there, not particularly jacked or strong, still a fairly scrawny build. And Trey Kaufman-Renn is kind of that 4-5 tweener where he plays more like a center and more of a modern-day center because he can move around and do things, but he's only like 6'9". He's not incredibly tall the way you see a lot of big guys be incredibly tall. So I don't know. I think Smith is the most likely to stick in the NBA. And as far as if not, it just depends how long they want to do the overseas thing, how long they want to do the G League thing. I don't know. You hear some guys love it, and you hear guys like Robbie Hummel talk about how much they hated playing overseas. So I don't really know there. Question, do we think Daniel Jacobson is a bust? Do we move forward with better options? No, I wouldn't say that at this point. I think that's really premature to refer to him as a bust. I think the broken leg last season was a really big deal, and one that maybe we underestimated, even though I think we all knew it would be a big deal, right? Because he wasn't playing in games last year. He redshirted, but it's not like he had a redshirt year where he's practicing every day. He's out there just trying to get healthy. And sure, you can do some stuff in the weight room and try to bulk up a little bit, but not being out there getting up to game speed, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. It really takes away the benefit of redshirting. You redshirt out of necessity instead of luxury in that point. I'll talk about next year more once this season comes to an end, but He's absolutely part of Purdue's plans in the future. He should be. You've seen flashes of really high upside. I think even early on in the season, you saw some decent things. And then as the Big Ten got going and the Big Ten really got into the grind of the schedule, it really started to compound on him a little bit. But I think there's plenty to like about him in the future. It's a big offseason. It's a really big offseason. Maybe even in games like the NCAA tournament where you're out of the Big Ten, he would be better. But Purdue's going to ride with what got it here. It's going to ride with Trey Kaufman-Renn and Oscar Clough in the front court. Daniel Jacobson played 2 minutes in the last game. Sounds about right with what I would expect going forward here this season. And then where does Matt Painter rank in terms of all-time coaches in the sport after getting his 500th career win at Purdue? I don't know. I think it's really hard to do that. I think it's really hard to compare over eras. I think that's really, really difficult to do. This era of college basketball is so unprecedented, but what I think has made Matt Painter so impressive over the last 5 years or so is that this has been the best of Purdue basketball, right? You look at the winningest players in Purdue history, and right now it's a tie of Caleb First, so last year's senior class, and this year's senior class. Purdue has won more over the last 5 years than it ever has in the history of the program. Now, yes, there are more games played now, get that, but the point is this. Purdue's been ranked number 1 in the country in the AP poll at various parts of 4 of the last 5 seasons. Until 5 seasons ago, until December of 2021, Purdue had never done that. So you've seen Matt Painter really hit his stride in the most volatile, uncertain, wild, wild west era of the sport. And I think, to me, that is the most impressive thing about Matt Painter, because he's done it at a place that, you know, aside from Nigel Pack, has never really publicly lost a player because of money. But it's abundantly clear that Purdue has never been some powerhouse when it comes to money. And that makes it even more impressive what he's been able to do. It really is. I wanted to talk here briefly just about the NCAA tournament, because it's been an awesome tournament so far. This has been a blast. And I know there are all of the thought pieces, oh, Cinderella's dead. And I don't know. And that's the story this week, because Purdue is going up against this year's Cinderella. It's the double-digit seed, the underdog. It's the University of Texas at Austin, right? One of the most historic athletic departments in the country, one of the bigger schools in the country, certainly one of the bigger brands in all of college athletics. It is certainly worth noting that this is a couple years in a row now where you don't have the mid-major going on a run. I don't know. Obviously, NIL and the transfer portal are separate factors in all of this, but they're inextricably linked. You can't have one without the other. Obviously, if players could transfer whenever they wanted, you would have some of this. But if money wasn't a factor, who knows? And if money was allowed but guys couldn't transfer, then it'd look different too. The two came in at the same time, and it's created a brand new landscape where mid-majors have a really difficult time in the sport. Now, I thought the first and second rounds this year were awesome. I really did. High Point beats Wisconsin. That was an all-time first-round game. Siena Siena didn't beat Duke, but that was must-watch TV there. That was unbelievable. At one point on the YouTube TV quad box, you had High Point, Wisconsin, you had McNeese off to a really good start against Vanderbilt, and you had Siena beating Duke in the second half. Like, that's the NCAA tournament everyone lives for, right? There were some awesome second-round games. Nebraska over Vanderbilt, Iowa over Florida, St. John's at the buzzer. Utah State gave Arizona a run for its money. High Point gave Arkansas a run for its money. Miami gave Purdue a run for its money. There were some really good second-round games, too. Yes, the transfer portal and NIL have changed everything, but I don't know that the concept is dead forever, and I don't know that it makes the NCAA tournament even all that much worse. Look at the slate of games this week. They're awesome. It's always fun when a mid-major makes its run, but there's always the game when it ends, and it usually doesn't end pretty. This week is full of bangers, man. I mean, on Thursday, you have awesome games. You have Purdue, Texas. You have Iowa, Nebraska. You have Illinois, Houston, and Arizona, Arkansas. Those are all great. Michigan State, UConn, Tennessee, Iowa State, Alabama, Michigan, St. John's, Duke. This is awesome. This is awesome. So, yeah, I love the mid-major as much as anyone. You all know how much I love Valparaiso basketball, a program that was put on the map because of a Sweet 16 run as a 13 seed in 1998. But the sport has changed. The teams at the top are better than they used to be. Players aren't leaving as early as they used to. Guys can get paid in college basketball now. They're in less of a hurry to jump to the NBA. That is, I think, an underreported part of this. Teams are older at the top. Teams are better at the top. The game's really good. There's a ton of high-level play in college basketball right now. This is still the best event in sports. Yeah, the 12 seeds and below probably aren't as good as they used to be. That delta is getting bigger between the top teams and those teams that are auto bids from their mid-major conferences. But I think it's been a really good tournament so far, and this upcoming weekend should be absolutely incredible. You're going to have some great games. Get your caffeine, because Thursday night and Friday night are going to be late nights if you're a college hoops fan. I just wanted to close here with a couple of final thoughts on Purdue. This has obviously been a really great late season renaissance. This wasn't looking good. When we were sitting here just 3 weeks ago, Purdue was getting ready to play in the Big Ten tournament. God, that was just 2 weeks ago. Time flies. 2 weeks ago at this time, Purdue hadn't played in the Big Ten tournament yet. It had just given up almost 100 points at home to Wisconsin. It lost 5 times at Mackey Arena in one season. And you're just sitting there kind of mind blown that Purdue had a team with a lot of promise, with a lot of reason to be excited, that hadn't panned out the way you thought. But now as Purdue sits here, as it's in San Jose now, for the Sweet 16 with a game against Texas on Thursday, this is where you're at. This is where you want to be. The NCAA tournament is the great equalizer. It can make, as John Rothstein said, I think, it can make great seasons feel mediocre, and it can make mediocre seasons feel great. And this is Purdue's senior class really finishing strong, and it has one more game now. Purdue's senior class has one more game where all the pressure in the world is on it. It's been a really long run of that for these guys. Almost every game they've played in at Purdue, Purdue has been favored. I don't know what the exact number is. If one of you guys looks it up, I should have messaged Cobra about that. Almost every game they've played, they've been favored in. And it's one more time where Purdue is a big favorite. All of the pressure, it's on it. It's a senior class that's been outstanding down the stretch. At times this year, it felt like it was really wearing on them. It felt like Purdue was kind of running its course with this group. But now Purdue's one win away from this group being the all-time winningest class in Purdue history. They would have won 130 games. Pretty unheard of. Really is. Pretty incredible. Do I have that right? That doesn't sound right. I wanted to say 129, but that doesn't sound right. Nonetheless, Purdue's senior class has been phenomenal. And with all due respect to Caleb First, it would be only fitting that this group got that crown, because it's quite possibly the best class in Purdue history. It is probably the most transformational class in Purdue history. It has really, really elevated Purdue to the top of the sport at a national level. And now it takes the court on Thursday with a trip to the Elite Eight on the line. It has the pressure on it one more time, and we'll see if Purdue can get it done. But that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for joining me. I will be back. If Purdue wins on Thursday, we'll do a quick emergency podcast to talk about the Elite Eight game. If not, we'll kind of let the dust settle a little bit and go from there. But nonetheless, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'll be here all summer long. I'll be here all through the rest of the NCAA tournament run for Purdue, and you don't want to miss an episode. Subscribe. Follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. Send me questions. Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. Email, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Enjoy the game on Thursday, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.